Hello everyone, Phoenix61 here with your daily dose of Skull and Bones content. We are going to fight the brand new level 16 boss Vikram for this season, and we are going to take him on all by ourselves today. So this is going to be our sort of solo guide, right? So you could do this build and then also play with other people and make life quite a bit easier, right? But it's always fun to like go up to the challenge trying to complete this fight by yourself. So if you're not familiar with this one, right? So he, when he spawns, he's going to show up and the fight's going to actually seem pretty easy, especially with the build that we're doing here, right? But what happens is, or what's supposed to happen, there's some little cheeky thing that kind of happens here when we're doing it. What's supposed to happen is he'll go immune right at the last second, and then he'll come back up and be like full health again. You have to do the whole like real battle, right? But we trigger Punctured and Stormstruck on him with these last couple of hits, and then hit him pretty big there. So the immunity didn't work, and it actually gave us credit for the kill and gave us the treasure chest, the chest drop for him. So it's definitely a little bit of a glitch there. I've only tried it a few times. I wasn't able to replicate it any more than that one time, right? So results may vary, and I'm sure that once developers figure out that that's a thing, that they will promptly fix that, right? So we will go into the real fight, right? We'll fight him au natural here. And yes, he's got two really big critical hit points on each side of his ship. So you definitely want to go after those anytime that they're available to you. And then, yeah, same thing here. It's going to pretty easy to take him down. You'll notice too, I shoot at his sails a lot, right? So if there's waves in the way, or if we're at range, I'll still shoot the sails because you're still triggering the Punctured and Stormstruck, right? You're still triggering Punctured and electric status effects when you're hitting the sails. So there's still a pretty big value in going after the sails. But yeah, here he goes immune with just a sliver of health left, and then he's going to sink under the water, and then all the pillars and stuff are going to come up, and we'll have to do the fight for real this time. We won't get away with a shortened fight, so to speak. You can see his health is all coming back. Here come these pillars. So if you're not familiar with this fight, we'll kind of describe the best strategy for it here as well. But these pillars come up, and kind of towards the bottom of them, there's like a little gem or glowing orb thing inside of them, and you want to go, yeah, this one you can see really well. You'll want to aim for those. That's what's going to give you a critical, a weak point hit, so to speak. And we've built into sort of the like weak point damage and punctured damage and electric damage with this build pretty heavily. So this works out really well. We're able to take these, it was like 120,000 damage. Is that what that was when we hit that critical spot, that next point? Like, these go down crazy fast, right? If you get these critical hit points in like succession, right? So the ship has a perk where actually, it's a furniture piece, right? Where we've got a perk where landing a critical hit, if you land one within like 8 seconds after hitting a previous one, you'll get a 30% damage boost, right? And then the ship's got perks around like punctured or piercing weapons as well, which work really great against these shields. A few other furniture pieces. We are using Divine Thunder long guns all around the ship, with the exception of the back, because I only had 3 of these cannons, but they trigger punctured, piercing and electric damage. And then so we've used several other furniture pieces to then stack into the damage output on those as well. And then lastly, we've also got the Buccaneer's Oath armor piece. I think this is something that others have probably overlooked, but what it does is, if you look down in the bottom left, you can see the little shield icon status effect. It's the farthest one to the right, and it keeps regenerating, right? It goes down pretty quickly. It only lasts 30 seconds to this buff that you get, but there's no cooldown for it, right? The duration's 30 seconds, but there's no cooldown for it. So every time basically what's happening is every time you destroy something, you're proccing that skill, and what it is it's another 25% weapon damage increase, and an additional 25% armor buff for you as well. And you can trigger it. You can just almost, with this fight, you can almost always have it going, right? So any of these little ships that he spawns, all of the like shield buoys that he spawns, as well as all of the pillars, all count as a target when you destroy it, and triggers that Buccaneer's Oath that extra buff, right? I think it's called Blood and Gold. So I will go into the build more specifically. I'll show you all of the weapons and furniture pieces and the armor piece as well, and kind of give you an idea on where to get most of those. But yeah, so this just works really, really, really well here. And then, yeah, whenever you get the chance, you know, obviously shoot the boss. But I was personally prioritizing the pillars whenever they were up, because what's happening is they'll shoot like an orb at the, yeah, over 100,000 damage with that third critical hit spot, right? So, but what's happening is they'll shoot like an orb at Vikram, right? They'll shoot an orb at his ship, and then it gives him more shielding. And then you just have to deal with that more shielding. But yeah, you'll see me going after these the shield buoys, right? If you can shoot the buoys before they generate a bubble shield, that's super helpful and nice to get that done. And then it also is triggering your Blood and Gold status effect, right, for the additional 25% weapon damage and 25% armor, right? So that's making a big difference in this fight. This ship is the sort of ultimate glass cannon, so an extra buff to armor like that you can consistently keep going makes a big difference here. And then if you haven't noticed already, I'm also using the new, there's like a buoy shield. It's called like Blighted something. I don't forget what it is, but right, it's a buoy launcher weapon for the Ox weapon. And it launches a similar to what he puts out, right, the shield buoy, and you can sit within that, and it, for the most part, it should make it so that you don't get the sort of like cursed status effect, right, that he sends out. He sends out like a fart blast every time, basically every time the pillars come back up, I think is when that triggers. And so if you can get yourself inside of one of these shield buoys, you basically, you'll want to stop. When you see those pillars starting to come up, I always like, the best strategy for me was slow down and stop, and then launch the buoy right next to your ship, because this ship is kind of sluggish when it comes to turning and stopping and starting, I felt like. So if you can get yourself already slowing down and stop like we do here, then when he does the fart attack, right, we don't get the cursed or like poisoned status effect that comes from him, right? He did trigger it a little bit on us there because we got hit by something, but we didn't get it. Like it triggers it instantly when you don't do it right. And you'll see me, I took one hit before, and you'll see me take a couple others later here too, where and so what you want to do is just keep restoration kits on you as well. You'll see me use those restoration kits really, really quickly whenever we get the like that cursed status effect triggered on us, because it not only drains your stamina, but it drains your health really quickly as well. And in this ship, since you don't have a big health pool, that health drains like insanely quickly when you have that happening, right? So bring restoration kits, have them assigned to your quick wheel so that you can get rid of that negative status effect super, super quickly, right? But yeah, this is kind of a rinse and repeat fight, right? Whenever these pillars come up out of the water, you're going to want to focus on the pillars. He generally does the cursed fart attack, right? That just spreads the poison through the entire map and gives that negative status effect to everyone. And then so if you plan for it correctly, you can see the pillars coming up, get yourself inside one of the buoy shields, and then you shouldn't get the status effect triggered against you, right? And then once you notice it go off, there it is there. So I didn't have a buoy ready, so then it's going to trigger that for us instantly, right? And so then I'm going to use I missed it and didn't trigger it, right? But I'm going to use a restoration kit, right? And that'll get rid of that negative status effect. Here we go, there we go, we used it there. So that gets rid of that negative status effect right away. And then you do have to keep in mind that your restoration kits have a cooldown, right? So you can't just keep pounding those out and using them every time. So my recommendation would be to still use the bubble shield and try and use that whenever you can time it correctly. and then use the restoration kits as a backup, because otherwise, yeah, see, these pillars are already coming back up. Otherwise, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to get that status effect triggered against you again, and then you're not going to be able to use your restoration kit, and you're gonna die out, right, from the poison or whatever it's called, right? So I am actually going to fast forward through, I don't know, a good like 10 minutes or so of this fight, right? This is very much so rinse and repeat, right? Like, so pillars come up, shoot the pillars. Whenever you see the like little mini suicide ships or the shield buoys that he launches, right, hit those as often as you can, because that's triggering your blood and gold status effect, giving you some additional buffs to armor and weapons, and then go after the boss, right? Like, so it's just continue that cycle until he dies, right? Pretty much, right? So yeah, this fight reminded me a lot of like the Ender Dragon fight from like Minecraft, where it was like, you know, you go into the end and you fight the dragon, and you as you do damage to the dragon, the pillars heal him. So then you got to destroy the the things on top of the pillars, right? And then you can finally kill the dragon, right? It was very like similar concept, and it was like the first thing I thought of when I first started experiencing this battle with the level 16 Vikram, right? So and then yes, piercing weapons are going to work the best. And so yeah, we've built into those, right? Piercing weapon. I mean, pretty much all the long guns have piercing, but yeah, we are using the Divine Thunder long guns, right? So, but yeah, piercing's what's going to work best against all of these like bubble shields and his shield as well. So right, so these long guns just happen to be the right tool for the job, right? So highly recommend. If you don't have the Divine Thunder long guns, you could also use the Lepest ones, like the Lepirk or whatever they're called, that also do the poison damage. They actually have, I think they have slightly better base damage from those. But since I was building into the Stormstruck status effect for this build, like this was just working, these ended up being stronger with the way I've done the build. So highly recommend these if you have them, right? But there's also the poison long guns. Those are a good option as well. And then you could also do Skurlock's long 9s, right? If you can't get a hold of those either. Because Skurlock's long 9s, I think you can buy from Skurlock outright for like helm products. So that's another option as well. So all right, so we're getting close to the end of the fight here, right? And actually another player decided to join in here, but he doesn't really do anything. He ends up going up to the boss and unsuccessfully shooting him a few times, and then when the boss does his, farty poison attack, right, like then he ends up just dying from it, right? So in reality, this other player actually makes the fight a little bit more difficult for us, because boss fights do tend to scale to how many players are fighting it or are engaged, right? So it actually makes it a little bit tougher for us, but since we're close enough to the end, it wasn't a big deal. As you sort of get through this last round of pillars and then get him down to a low enough amount of health, if you can actually hit the pillars, that always helps too. But once you get him down to a low enough amount of health, he goes like up into the air and kind of goes crazy or whatever. But with the long gun build here, he's pretty easy to take out pretty quickly once he gets into that. Yeah, that guy's gonna die again. He goes down pretty quickly, because what it is he's up in the air, and the critical hit points are pretty easy to hit, and then with the way we have this build, he just takes mass damage really quickly. So I'm hanging back here because we did get that poison, the curse status effect against us, and then we're waiting for the cooldown for our heal here as well. So we were able to get rid of it with the restoration kit, but then so I dropped a shield buoy here just to try and protect us for these last few seconds while we're waiting for the repair kit cooldown. And then there's nothing else for us to shoot at right now except for him, so we'll try and focus fire on him. And you see some of these are getting through the shield, but yeah, he uses a fart attack there. We were in our bubble shield, so that was huge for us. And then he's going to pop out somewhere else, and then we'll just have to, and he's going to do that thing where he goes up out and floats out of the water, right? So you just want to move away from him, because if you're too close to him, you won't be able to aim your guns up high enough to hit those critical hit spots, right? So he kind of gets high up in the air here, does another fart attack. Yeah, we didn't. I don't know if we just didn't get triggered by it there, but yeah, we hit him like one more time in a weak point, and then he's done and for good right now. Right, so that is how you would do Vikram solo. That's my recommendation. Right, it's kind of a rinse and repeat fight. So if you can get through one or two sort of phases of his pattern, right, then you should be able to make it all the way. But I don't know. I think it's more fun with a group of people anyway, but. Just wanted to point out that you are able to do him solo, right, by yourself if you wanted to just have that conquest, I guess, on your books, right? But so we'll go into the build a little bit more here. So if we go into ship list, we can see we are using the new ship, the Garuda, right? So this is the sharpshooter class, I guess you would say. And so to get this, I did just recently put a video out on this ship specifically, kind of highlighting it. But to get this, you just have to progress through the Smuggler's Pass for this season, right? So just play the game. But yes, it has this weapon damage increased based on how far you are from the target, caps up to 80%, and then piercing weapons do 20% more damage. And then this revolver perk here, increased weapon damage by 30% when hitting a target with punctured. So since we're using the Divine Thunder long guns, those have piercing on them, so they are pretty consistently triggering punctured on things as well as stormstruck. So when you trigger punctured, once you trigger that status effect, I think it does like an instant additional 5,000 damage or something like that. Plus if you're getting a critical hit point strike and then you're getting a second one right after which we're compounding on using furniture pieces, that's when you're seeing those like 100,000 damage numbers pop up, is because we're stacking so much stuff like that. But yes, Divine Thunder. And then Buccaneer's Oath is the armor piece. I will show you the perks on that and kind of what we were talking about earlier. And then here's just the like brief snapshot of the furniture pieces that I chose. You obviously don't have to do it exactly like this, but this was what was working best for me and my playstyle. So I'll go over to one of the port side guns here. This is the Divine Thunder, right? These were a Smuggler's Pass item from the last season, I think. So if you don't have these, the way to get them would be probably from check Blackwood's cycling stock, check the black market cycling stock, right, the bartender, and then you could also potentially buy like legacy cash crates, right? But yeah, hits to weak points also have a chance to trigger an additional 3,000 damage lightning strike. So we're getting all of that additional like critical hit damage that's just like stacking up and can happen all at once, right? And then, yeah, the perk, or whatever these are called, in the back. Like I said, you could use these if you don't have Divine Thunder, or you could also potentially use Skurlock Long Nines. Right, Skurlock Long Nines have a little bit less base damage, but they have more piercing damage, I think, than any of the other long guns. So there could be a build out there for that, maybe some different furniture pieces. But like I said, I'm building into the Stormstruck and piercing effects, so with my furniture pieces. And then Blightkeeper, this is the spring loader, buoy, shield, launcher, thingy-majigger, right? So this is highly recommended here too. I think this came from the Smuggler's Pass, and then I got an additional one from like one of the, like a boss crate or something like that, right? So there's a couple of ways to get this, but I think the guaranteed drop rate is one of the, probably the Gunmaster or something from the Smuggler's Pass, right? So progress through there. And then yes, Buccaneer's Oath is the armor piece we're using. Blood and Gold is the perk. Destroying a target confers Blood and Gold status on your ship, which increases weapon damage and armor by 25% for 30 seconds. So with all of the little buoys that he spawns and all the little mini ships when he calls for reinforcements, plus the towers, all count as destroying a target. So you can almost always have this Blood and Gold perk active. So that's an additional 25% weapon damage on top of all the other sort of perks and stuff that we've already talked about, and we haven't even gotten into the furniture pieces yet. So Tooling's Guidance, this is another one from the current season Smuggler's Pass, right? Hitting a weak point increases damage dealt by the next weak point hit within 8 seconds by 30%, right? So it's an additional 30% weak point damage. Increased damage to weak points with front weapons by an additional 12%, and reduces reload time of front weapons by 12%. So the ship has a little bit of a nerf with long guns in the front when you get that last upgrade, so that's helping with that. And then charge stores, this is triggering Stormstruck on a target, increases next attack damage by 50%. So there's another 50% that damage that we'll get when we trigger Stormstruck on the next attack. Copper Fastening Station, increased secondary damage of electric weapons, right? So we're buffing into the electric, the Stormstruck, you know, status effect with this. Cannonball Charging Station, increase the charge rate of Stormstruck status effect. Like, see where we're going with this, right? And it increases the rate of them if they're already affected by the punctured status effect, right? So, yeah, so we're capitalizing on the two status effects that we are triggering with the Divine Thunder long guns, right? Amber Station, increased charge rate of Stormstruck status effect by 8%. Increased duration of Stormstruck status effect by 8%. See where we're going with this, right? And then Long Gun Works, increases secondary damage of Long Gun by 19%. That's a buff, a straight up buff to your piercing and electric damage, like just straight up from those long guns. That one you can get from the Carpenter. You can craft that. Anybody can. Like, you don't have to do anything to get that. Right, except for maybe go buy the blueprint from somewhere if you don't have it already, right? So, yeah, easy peasy. And I think two of those new, like those blue rarity furniture pieces, two of those are coming from the Sea People Huntmaster. So, go check out the Sea People Huntmaster in Lenitra, right? So basically the guy that gives you all the monster hunt missions. He is selling two of those furniture pieces. That's how you get two of those. And then, like I said, the major furniture pieces coming from the Smuggler's Pass. And then if you don't already have any of the other ones that I was using, I would check the Codex. But I think those are previous season items as well. So, right, so, but those are easy to get. It's just you need like 75 monstrous teeth to buy the blueprints for them. So, yeah, 150 monstrous teeth to get them both if you're doing the same build that I'm doing here, right? So keep that in mind. Do some monster hunts. You may have to go farming for those if you want to try and replicate this build here. But thank you guys so very much for watching my video all the way through. We will probably have more Skull and Bones content in the future as we come across new and fun and exciting things to do in this game. And so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate when you push the subscribe button for me. It's, you know, it's free, it doesn't cost you anything to do, and once you realize how much of an idiot I really am, then you can always unsubscribe, right? But yes, we play some other games as well on my channel, so not just Skull and Bones. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
You've got nothing to do, even if you're